Hey, this is Math Minutes Pro with Dr. Harrison. Today we will talk about how to solve multi-step equations. So in this video we're going to solve several equations. So I'm going to draw a divided line. We'll solve a couple of equations in this session. So let's first start off with, so here we have 18 times x minus 10 minus 6 times w. Scratch that. Minus 6 times x equals 50. All right. So in this equation here, we have two like terms, and our strategy is that we want to group the like terms together first. Now, the reason why these terms are like is because they have the same variable and the same exponent. Even though you don't see the exponent in the x, it's 1. Now remember, terms are separated by addition or subtraction. So in this equation, we have 1, 2, 3 terms. So the first thing we want to do is group the like terms together. So we have, let's go ahead and we rewrite 18 times x. Now bring that minus 6x here. Sometimes I see students make a mistake and they'll forget that minus sign right there. Now bring the minus 10 here equals 50. All right, so now that we've grouped the like terms together, let's go ahead and combine them. In this case, we have 18 times x minus 6 times x. Right, that's 12 times x. Bring down the minus 10 equals 50. Now we have a simple equation right here. We're solving for x. Remember, we want to isolate the variable x, get x by itself. So let's go ahead and write a plus 10 here and a plus 10 here. Now this is the addition property of equality or inverse operation. The opposite of subtracting 10 is to add 10. And whatever you do to both one side of the equation, you do to the other side. So that crosses out. We go back to the left, bring down 12 times x, bring down equals, and 60. Now we're almost there. I'm going to rewrite 12 times x equals 60 so I can make this last step explicit. In this case, we use the addition property of equality. Now what we want to use is the division property of equality. The opposite of multiplying 12 times x is to divide. So whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other side. The 12s cross out. We get x equals 60 divided by 12 is 5. Excellent. So we've successfully solved for x with this type of multi-step equation. But there are different types of multi-step equations. So what I'd like to do, I'm going to rewrite this because it's bothering me. I want that to look a little cleaner. So I'll just put a 6 times x. That looks better. So let's go ahead and solve another type of equation. We're still dealing with multi-step equations, but in this case, we're going to solve an equation that looks a little different. Here we have 1 minus 3 times the quantity of, that's how you say that, and we have n plus 5 equals negative 8. Now, in this case, we're going to use the distributive property of equality to get rid of the parentheses, okay? So first, let's bring down the 1. Now, that says minus 3 but that's also, we can also read it as 1 plus negative 3. So let's say negative 3 times n will give us negative 3n. Very good. Now, negative 3 times 5 will give us negative 15. All right, looking pretty good. Now let's bring down that negative 8. Now, just like we did here, we identified the like terms. We have 1, 2, 3 terms. So we see terms in this case are constants, and the terms that are like are 1 and 15. So let's go ahead and group those together first. 1 minus 15 minus 3 times n, bring that 3 times n down, equals negative 8. Now that we have both like terms together, 1 minus 15, that's just like adding integers. All right, a minus b equals a plus the opposite of b. So then 1 minus 15 is negative 14. Bring down the minus 3 times n, okay, equals negative 8. All right, now we need to get rid of the negative 14 and negative 3. So let's get rid of this constant first. The opposite of subtracting 14 is to add 14. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other side of the equation. All right, that crosses out. We have negative 3 times n. Don't forget that negative. A lot of times students will bring down 3 times n, but that negative is in front of it. Equals, remember you're adding down, so that's negative 8 plus a positive 14. And that's going to give us a positive 6. Here we are. Now we're almost there. We need to get rid of the negative 3, which is the coefficient. So I'm going to write that equation here again so I can make the next step explicit. The opposite of multiplying by negative 3 is to divide by negative 3. Whatever you do to one side of the equation, you do to the other side of the equation. Now, this crosses out. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 is 1. So then our final answer is we have n equals 6 divided by a negative 3 is a negative 2. All right, looking pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and solve one more equation, right? Because I just want to cover a few different types of multi-step equations. All right, so I'm going to erase the equation on this side. I'll leave that one over there. Okay. All right, nice and clean. All right, let's see here. So let's get this last equation copied. We have 12 minus the quantity of x plus 3 equals 10. All right. Now this one looks similar to that one, but the reason why I decided to solve this equation, here, remember, here we have a negative 3 times the quantity of n plus 5. Here we have a negative times the quantity of x plus 3. That negative, you want to see that as negative 1 right here, okay? So we're going to distribute that. We're going to multiply negative 1 times x. So first let's bring down 12. Negative 1 times x is negative x. Now multiply negative 1 times positive 3. That's negative 3. Looking good, equals 10. All right. So we have some like terms here, 12 and negative 3. So let's go ahead and group those terms, those constants together. Rewriting this equation, we have 12 minus 3 minus x equals 10. Do you have to do this? No, but I think it's a great step in practicing grouping like terms. Now, we have 12 minus 3, which gives us 9 minus x equals 10. We need to get rid of the 9 here, and we have a negative 1, which is the coefficient of x. Even though you don't see the 1 in front of the x, it's there, so that's negative x, all right? So the opposite of we have a positive 9, so let's subtract, all right? Minus 9 here, minus 9. Whatever you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other side to balance it. Add down, we get a 0. Bring down that negative x equals 1. Almost there. Now, let's go ahead and solve for x. We have a negative 1 in front of it. I'm going to go ahead and write that again. Put that negative in front of it. The opposite of multiplying x by negative 1 is to divide by negative 1. Divide this side by negative 1. The negatives cross out. Final answer is x equals 1 divided by negative 1 is negative 1. And that is our final answer. So thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to check out my Patreon page in my video description below. On my Patreon page, you can get access to exclusive math lessons, study tips, live Q&A, and more. See you next time.